As you enter the ideation phase of the design process, it's important to compare the product you're designing with other products from similar organizations. For example, understanding what other libraries are doing helps us create a relevant, valuable design for the website we're designing. That's where competitive audits come in. As a refresher, a competitive audit is an overview of your competitors' strengths and weaknesses. These audits are used to collect information about what the competition's doing, including the techniques that are working and the ones that need improvement. You can learn a lot from a competitive audit. Competitive audits are useful because they help you identify your key competitors, review the products that your competitors offer, understand how your competitors position themselves in the market, examine what your competition does well and what they could do better, and consider how your competitors talk about themselves. So what do you consider to be your competition? To be thorough, you should indicate both direct and indirect competitors in your audit. Direct competitors have offerings that are similar to your product and focus on the same audience. Essentially, you're both trying to solve the same problem. Indirect competitors either have a similar set of offerings but focus on a different audience, or have a different set of offerings and focus on the same audience. So let's talk about direct and indirect competitors of the library we're designing a website for. Direct competitors to our library will be other libraries in the Milwaukee and the surrounding counties in Wisconsin, as well as online booksellers with a book rental option. Indirect competitors will include any place where you can purchase books, like used bookstores in Milwaukee and any online booksellers. Next, let's review the steps to conduct a competitive audit. The first step is to outline the goals for your competitive audit. Make sure your goals are specific to your product, users, and industry. The second step is to create a spreadsheet with a list of your competitors. You should aim to include about 5 to 10 competitors in your list. Some of them should be direct and others should be indirect. The third step calls out specific features you want to compare. This list of features should align to your goals for the audit. Fourth, research each company. You'll need to evaluate each competitor's website and take a note of your observations, focusing on the features you listed in step 3. Remember to include details like what works well, what could be improved, whether your competitor's features meet the needs of your specific audience. Fifth, analyze your findings. Try to spot trends and themes. Ask yourself, what are the similarities between you and your competitors? Is there a certain feature that your competitors all approach in the same way? Finally, summarize your findings in a report, providing clear explanation of your findings and what they mean for your design. Your report might be a slide presentation or a document. It's helpful to include screenshots and simple charts or graphics. Competitive audits are a fantastic way to provide designers with a lot of essential information, but there are limits to what they can do. There are even a few ways that they can get in the way of the design process. If you want to learn more about the limitations of competitive audits, I'd recommend you visit the earlier material about competitive audits, which you can find linked in the course readings. Coming up, you'll put your knowledge of competitive audits to the test and conduct one for the website you're designing. Can't wait to find out what you'll learn about your competition. You successfully created a competitive audit. Knowing what the competition is up to has given you an edge. In this video, we'll talk about how to use learnings from your competitive audit to ideate. So let's take a step back and remember how competitive audits fit into the larger design process. As we've discussed, it's important to come up with lots of ideas before deciding on one solution. To explore ideas for design solutions, there are many tools you can use. A competitive audit is just one of them. Let's take that a step further. How can we use the learnings from our competitive audit to come up with even more ideas? Start by making a simple matrix based on your competitive audit research. Focus only on the biggest themes for your competitive audit, like the strengths and the weaknesses of your competitors, which are listed across the top of the matrix. Then, to focus your brainstorm, list a few features that you researched during your competitive audit down the left side of the matrix. For our competitive audit of libraries, let's say we compared visual design, usability, and the usefulness of our competitors' products. Now, with this outline in place, let's add in some of the details we learned from our audit. Here is a matrix I completed based on the library website competitive audit. For visual design, one thing I noted in my analysis is that competitor libraries use color really well in their designs. On the other hand, a couple of their websites look like they haven't been updated in a while. Under usability, I've listed another strength, the navigation. Many of the library websites I checked out have navigation that works well, and information is often easy to find. But a weakness is a few of the websites were slow to load. The speed has a big impact on the usability of websites. For usefulness, I noted that the library websites provide basic information. But with the outdated design and information, users might wonder if these libraries are still open. With our matrix complete, it's time to bring together a team that can ideate from different perspectives, including other designers, researchers, writers, and engineers. Now you're ready to start brainstorming together. Take the team through the matrix and make sure they understand the strengths and the weaknesses that you've listed. Start by identifying simple things you like and dislike about your competitors' designs. These are easy to accomplish tasks that can make a difference to your product with minimal effort. When I start my designs for the Wisconsin County Library website, I'll be sure to include a simple navigation, since I like that about my competitor's design. On the other hand, I'll use a modern website layout, since I dislike the competitor's outdated designs. Then, brainstorm gaps or opportunities. Recognize where something can be improved or built upon as you go through the brainstorming process. For example, many competitor websites were slow to load. If I can make sure that my website design loads quickly, that'll be more user-friendly and will help users find their books more quickly. That's a big opportunity. Once you've come up with lots of ideas, begin sorting them. You can group similar ideas together to uncover patterns, and a few of your ideas will naturally rise to the top. The goal of the brainstorming process is to gain a better understanding of the competition and create an actionable list of ideas that will make your website design unique and effective. Now that you have a sense of what you can borrow or change from the competition, let's get those ideas flowing. Happy ideating! We know that UX design is about more than just making something look great. We're always putting the user first, so your design has to be useful and effective too. That's why ideation is so important, in order to come up with lots of design solutions for the problems that our users might be experiencing. One way to kickstart the ideation process is with design thinking activities, like the How Might We exercise. You might remember this activity from an earlier course. The How Might We exercise lets us translate issues users are experiencing into opportunities for design. Reframing the user's need as a question can help you think of your users and their needs in a new way. Let's break it down. How encourages us to explore a bunch of ideas instead of moving forward with only one idea for the solution. The word how suggests that we don't have an answer yet. Might emphasizes the open-endedness of the brainstorming solution. Our ideas are possible solutions and not the only solution. And finally, the word we suggests a collaborative effort. Ideas that are thorough and innovative require teamwork to complete. The question should be specific in describing the needs of the user, but still have room for innovation in the final product. This means that the question is broad enough to leave space for solutions that might not be evident yet. Let's think back to Lorena, a user that we interviewed while conducting research for our library website. One of Lorena's pain points was that she can't access the library outside operating hours. And her other pain point was that she can only check out books from the library in person. Remember, during the ideation phase, we want to come up with a lot of ideas. So for this exercise, we want to come up with a lot of how might we questions and not just one. Coming up with how might we questions can be tricky though. To help, the design school at Stanford University outlines a bunch of ways to create how might we phrases. A few of them include amp up the good. For example, how might we make a library website the most exciting place to reserve books in advance? Change the status quo. How might we bring the library to Lorena? And break the point of view into pieces. How might we design a system that keeps track of all the books in stock? How might we allow users to reserve in-stock books on the library's website? There are more ways to reframe the problem covered in the course readings too. Check them out and get your creative juices flowing. Using the How Might We exercise, we've asked thoughtful questions to start our ideation process. But we can't just stop at one question or solution. Let's keep ideating with another design exercise, Crazy Eights. Earlier, we discussed how to use ideation exercises to brainstorm ways to solve our users' problems. Now it's time for some artistic fun, sketching. In this video, we'll discuss why quick, simple sketches are useful in the ideation process. We'll also work through the Crazy Eights exercise for the library website. If you've been taking the courses in this program in order, You may remember sketching using the Crazy 8s exercise for an app. Now I'll show you how to use the Crazy 8s exercise to sketch ideas for a website. We'll create really simple designs at first. These drawings don't have to look like anything in particular. The ideation phase is all about exploring lots of ideas at lightning speed, which forces you to think creatively without limits. Ideation is not about creating something beautiful or functional. At this point in the ideation phase, the whole team might gather to complete the Crazy 8s exercise together. With Crazy 8s, your team can compare drawings and then narrow down the list of ideas before moving forward with the best solutions. So let's get started. So grab a piece of paper and a pencil or a marker and we'll do some Crazy 8 sketching. First, start with a large sheet of paper. Fold the paper in half. Like this, and then fold it in half again. Like this, and in half one more time. And when you unfold it, you'll now have 8 squares for 8 different ideas. To make this a bit more visible, I'm going to draw the lines on my paper where I folded, but you don't have to do this for your own paper. We'll limit each drawing to 60 seconds, so you'll also need a timer. It can be a clock, your phone, or a timer website. The last thing you'll need is a problem statement you created earlier. Ah yes, here's a problem statement I created for our persona Shane. Shane is a busy professional and book lover who needs to easily find and reserve books online because they want their book to be available to pick up at the library. I'll draw 8 ideas with this problem statement in mind. Remember, the idea behind Crazy 8s is to think creatively. No idea is too outrageous during a brainstorm. I'll draw any solution that comes to mind. Here we go. Okay, time's up. Let me show you some of the ideas I came up with to address our problem statement. As a reminder, our problem statement was Shane is a busy professional and book lover who needs to easily find and reserve books online because they want their book to be available to pick up at the library. I came up with 8 ideas as part of Crazy 8s, but let me quickly tell you about just 4 of them. If a user wants to find a book, a search box sounds like a sensible place to start, so I drew one of those here. Perhaps users might like to know what the most popular books are in their area or in different parts of the state, so I sketched a heat map of popular books here. This sketch over here shows a carousel of books that a user can swipe through, much like looking through books at an airport bookstore. This idea could bring familiar elements from the physical world into the digital world. And sometimes we might just want to judge a book by its cover. How about if we allowed users to search for blue books or books with penguins on the cover? That's what this sketch represents here. Now you're ready to try Crazy 8s on your own. Try using a problem statement that I just made up, like this one. Dakota is a self-employed artist who needs to connect with customers online because they want to sell their paintings outside of their city. Pause the video and start your timer. Remember, spend 1 minute on each idea and sketch possible solutions to solve Dakota's problem. Congratulations! You just did Crazy 8s. How did that feel? Were you able to come up with 8 different ideas? The Crazy 8s exercise is great practice for any design problem you need to solve. The sketching and ideating both get easier the more you do it. A great way to learn is to get feedback on your ideas. So if you'd like, take a photo of your completed Crazy 8s grid and share it on a discussion forum. Or do the exercise again with a different problem statement. That's a wrap. Now it's your turn to ideate using How Might We and Crazy 8s for your portfolio project. Have fun with it and get creative. it's time to start thinking about how your website should be organized to best meet your users' needs. This is called the information architecture of your website design. You may recall from an earlier course in this program that information architecture, or IA, organizes content to help users understand where they are in a product and where the information they want is. Effective information architecture is key to creating a seamless user journey. To make sure your website is easy to use, your information architecture should be informed by many sources, like user research and competitive audits that examine the way existing products in the market are structured. Knowing your users, their goals, and their behaviors is really important for creating an effective IA. So why is creating information architecture an important part of UX design? First, IA can organize and define the structure for your website. An organized website is easy to navigate. Also, IA can provide a high-level view of a product. Understanding how the elements of a website fit together and relate to each other can improve your design process. In addition, IA helps stakeholders review your designs. Stakeholders can evaluate whether the content in the site or the app is the correct type of content and if it's placed in the appropriate places to help achieve business or product goals. Next, IA can help engineers understand how to organize the data, so the eventual development of the product matches the visual designs you've created. So not only will your users benefit from good IA, it will make your colleagues' jobs easier too. In addition, messy IA can add time to the web development process, and you don't always have time to spare. And finally, IA can allow your ideas to grow and iterate with the design. The ability to adapt your approach during different stages of a project is a key skill for UX designers. In order to build information architecture that can meet your users' needs, you need to be able to organize your content effectively. There are 4 common ways that websites are structured, which we'll cover in the next video. So I've got a question for you. How many hours do you think you spend online in a given week? According to a 2018 study conducted by the University of Southern California, the average American spends 24 hours a week online. That means that scrolling, searching, and swiping our way through the internet takes up the same amount of time as a part-time job. Fortunately, common website structures help us browse more quickly. It doesn't matter if you're searching for a pediatrician or checking out the latest news. Odds are that every website you come across uses familiar information architecture. These aren't accidents, these are site structures. There are 4 common site structures: hierarchical, sequential, matrix, and database. Each of these structures is unique and serves a specific purpose. Let's learn about them. The hierarchical model is one of the most popular website structures. It's a top-down approach to structure that starts with top-level categories of information, referred to as the parent level. Then content is narrowed into more detailed information, called the child level. This structure is very similar to a family tree, which is what the parent and child level terms are based on. The first page of a hierarchical website is the home page, where users start. This is represented by the page 1 at the top of a tree. The next level contains pages for the main categories of content. On a website, these categories usually appear in a navigation bar at the top of the home page. This is represented by pages 2, 3, and 4 in the diagram. Often, when you hover your mouse over one of the categories in the navigation bar or click on that category, a list of additional pages within that category appears. Each of these pages is considered a child of the parent category. For example, page 5 and page 6 are considered child pages of page 2. HBO.com is a good example of the hierarchical model. The website homepage offers main categories like series, movies, and docs at the parent level across the top of the homepage. If I click on one of the category pages like series, the site offers subcategory pages at the child level, like featured series, specials, and sports. You might have guessed that the hierarchical model gets its name from the word hierarchy. In UX design, hierarchy means organizing your content by importance. What's the most important, and what's the least important? And how do you connect this content together? A second common website structure is sequential. A sequential model is a website structure that leads users through a step-by-step process. Sequential websites order their pages from a starting page to an endpoint, sort of in a line. Users start on the site's first page and click a link or button to go to the next page in the order. Users continue this pattern, clicking through the pages in order until they've reached the last page. In a true sequential structure, like in an online survey, users aren't able to navigate to pages out of order. They can navigate between the next and previous page, but they aren't able to skip over pages or go to a home page. So think of this. Have you ever tried to find car insurance online? Almost all insurance sites are sequential forms to get a quote. The purpose of each page in a website that uses a sequential structure is to get users to the next step in the sequence, moving them toward an end goal. Okay, next up is a matrix model. The matrix model is a structure that allows users to follow their own path, since content is linked in several different ways. Users can navigate to any page in a matrix model website and still be able to access all of the other pages as well. This allows users to explore the site freely. Because all the content links to each other, the matrix model is sometimes referred to as the web model. Think about the homepage of a news website. Chances are the website has a navigation menu at the top, the most recent content front and center on the page, and then other news stories sorted into linked categories below. If you click on a news story, you'll find other related articles linked throughout the article. For example, if you're reading about a news story in a local zoo, you might find that a related story about an animal rescue is hyperlinked within the text. Other articles that might interest you are usually included at the bottom or to the side of the page too. Try pulling up your favorite news website now to check this out. One pro tip to keep in mind: this matrix model structure is considered outdated by some UX designers. Matrix models don't provide a great user experience because they can be tricky to navigate if you don't already know what you're looking for. Despite this, matrix models are still in use by many popular websites that want users to interact with a lot of the website's content, instead of sending the user on a specific journey. Finally, we have the database model. The database model is a website structure that mixes a database or an organized collection of information with search functionality. A database model creates a dynamic experience for users that includes advanced filtering and search capabilities. Think about your favorite social media network. Most social media sites offer the ability to post content with tags, like a location that categorizes the content. Users can search for content using these tags. Or think about the Google Maps website. When you land on the homepage, the main option you are presented with is to search the database for an address or a category of locations like restaurants. All right, so there you have it. 4 common website structures: hierarchical, sequential, matrix, and database. Aligning the structure of your website with one or more of these models has a few advantages. First, users have expectations for how websites work based on their prior experience using other websites. Site structure models, like the 4 we just discussed, make sure that your website meets those user expectations. Second, structure models improve navigation of websites as they add organization. Following a website structure model makes it easier for you, as a designer, to build in logical cues that orient and direct your users. And third, these structure models have been tested over time and have proven their effectiveness. They've evolved based on feedback from users and designers. They allow you to start building websites more quickly and efficiently too, since you aren't spending time inventing a structure from scratch. By now, you might be wondering which structure is best for your website design project. The answer to that question depends on your website and your users' needs. Most website structures are a combination of a couple of the structures we've introduced. It's common to blend or combine website structures to fit the needs for a specific project. That's the fun part of website design. You get to build a site that suits the specific needs of your users. One last thing to keep in mind: you may need to go beyond these models if you land a job at a brand or agency and they want to create something unique. Remember, these common structures are just a starting point. No matter the structure, the user needs to be able to easily and effectively navigate your website. You're well on your way to understanding how information architecture comes into play for websites. It's time to take everything you've learned about website structures and put it into practice. In this video, we're going to discuss how to incorporate clear information architecture into your designs using a sitemap. A sitemap is a diagram of a website or an app that shows how pages are prioritized, linked, and labeled. When planning your website in its early stages, it's important to create a clear organizational path. By mapping an outline, you can see which areas of your site may require more elaborate connectivity to help users reach the necessary pages. It's also a great way to see all of your pages as a whole in the order they will appear on your site to users. You might spot necessary pages you've forgotten or realize you need to remove and condense pages. Here's an example of how a sitemap might come to life. Notice how it's a bunch of lines and rectangles. The rectangle at the top might represent the home page because it's the page you want users to start on when they enter your website. Below the home page is a row of rectangles that are each attached to the home page by a line. This row of rectangles represents the different categories of your website. Finally, each category has a column of rectangles attached to it by lines. This column of rectangles represents the subcategories of that category. The sitemap might look familiar because it would be used for a website with a hierarchical structure. Besides helping users move from page to page, sitemaps help search engines index your website. If you ever wondered how a search engine like Google knows about all of the websites it lists on a search results page, this is how. Sitemaps tell Google what a site is about and what content it includes. The indexing process makes your site searchable and available to a whole new set of users that may not have found your website on their own. A clear organizational structure is also important for accessibility. Users of all abilities, identities, and experiences need to be able to successfully move through your website's design. Sitemaps create an organized flow that takes your users from one task to the next. This is especially important for any users interacting with your site using assistive technology. Organizing your site using a clear structure allows all site visitors, including those using assistive technologies, to navigate your site more efficiently. Now you know the value of sitemaps. Coming up, I'll show you how to build a sitemap for your website using the library website as an example. Let's go. You just learned how sitemaps help improve the user experience on websites. Now let's discuss how to actually create a sitemap in the real world. To get started, there are a couple of things to think about. First, think about pages that are commonly found on websites. You might think of a home page, which almost every website has, or a product description page that has details about an item you want to buy. Or you might even think about a shopping cart page that shows you a list of items you're about to purchase. There are lots of pages like these that are common across websites, so start to pay attention to the websites you browse. The good news is you've actually already started to do this. Think about the websites you reviewed during the competitive audit. Were there common pages that each of your competitors' websites had? For example, during my competitive audit of library websites, I noticed that most library websites had a search results page with a list of books that met the search criteria. So when I create my sitemap, I'll probably want to include a search results page, like a list of books. Second, recall the information you already know about your users. At this point in the design process, you've already done quite a bit of research, like empathy maps, personas, user stories, and user journey maps. You should know the users of your website pretty well. You'll want to keep your users' problem and goals in mind as you create your sitemap to ensure that users get what they need from your site. For the library website, I'll recall the user journey map that I built for Shane. I want to apply their journey to the sitemap I'm going to create. My focus will be on the actions that Shane takes as they browse the library website. As a reminder, Shane needs to browse the catalogue of books, choose the book they're interested in reading, try to reserve the book, join a waitlist if the book is not immediately available, and then pick up the book from the library. With all this information in mind, you're ready to put pen to paper, so to speak. It's time to decide the structure that your website will use: hierarchical, sequential, matrix, or database. Remember, you might use a combination of these structures or a different structure altogether. For the library website, I'm going to start with a hierarchical structure. This is because I have one top-level page, the home page, with pages hanging off it that users can easily find their way to. Here's a pro tip. If you start your sitemap with a common website structure in mind, you can use a template like this to kickstart the process. Okay, we often start with the home page of the website and create the rest of the sitemap from there. The home page is the access point for your website and the first part of your product that the users will experience. So I'll add a home page to the box at the top of my sitemap. Next, it's time to name the main categories of content on my website. Those categories are what I will add to the row of blue rectangles, which are connected to my home page. Remember, on a website, these categories usually appear in a navigation bar at the top of the home page. For the library website, I know there needs to be a page for users to browse books, so I'll add books to the first blue rectangle. In addition, users need a place to keep track of the books they want to check out. I'll call that the checkout cart. Also, I noticed on a lot of competitor library websites that there was a clear user account page. Having a user account page is often good practice on websites to help users easily keep track of their activity on the website. Finally, users might want to know a bit about the library and events that are coming up there, so I'll add an About page section as the fourth blue rectangle. Keep in mind, your website probably won't have exactly 4 categories, or blue rectangles in this case. This is just a starting point to help you get the hang of sitemaps. Okay, with these main categories in mind, I'm ready to start adding subcategories. In other words, I'll fill out the column of grey rectangles that comes below each blue rectangle. Remember, these are also called child pages that are attached to the parent page. Let's start with the books page, where users can browse a list of library books. Website pages within this category might include recent releases, most popular books, or recommendations for books based on what the user has already read. I'll add these 3 subcategories to the grey rectangles beneath the books category. When you create your own sitemap, you would continue to add subcategories like this for each of the categories you outlined for your website. And ta-da! Here's what the finished sitemap might look like for the library website. Keep in mind, I'll likely change some of these pages, condense them, move them around, but this is the beginning of a process that will help me start to envision the structure of my website. Building a sitemap means thinking about all the steps and decisions a user makes when they come to your website. A well-defined sitemap can orient your user and help improve site navigation. Creating a sitemap can also help you spot areas of improvement in your navigation and any important pages that were overlooked before beginning your design phase. Catching these mistakes early can save your team time and money later. Well, that's it for now. You're getting the hang of sitemaps, so it's time to create your own. Good luck. Congratulations on finishing this course from the Google UX Design Certificate. You can access the full experience, including job search help, and start to earn your certificate by clicking on the icon or the link in the description below. Watch the next video in the course by clicking here, and subscribe to our channel for more from upcoming Google Career Certificates.